Once again, I'm Avery Cooper on the phone here with Public Information Officer of IEMA, Kevin, sir. I don't ever know whether or not to call it IEMA or IEMA, but since the pandemic feels like, Kevin, everyone knows what IEMA is, but maybe you can tell me a little bit more about what IEMA is and what it is IEMA does.
Great. Thanks, Avery. Thanks for having us. I'm Kevin. I'm from IEMA, or the Illinois Emergency Management Agency. We basically employ over about 215 people with our primary responsibility to better prepare the state of Illinois for natural, man-made, or technological disasters, hazards, or maybe even acts of terrorism. Our staff includes command and general staff section chiefs, coordinators, field operations staffs, and subject matter experts in the field of homeland security and emergency management who really focus in on the intelligence analysis, technology, planning, prevention, training, mitigation, response, and recovery. I don't know if you know this, but our nuclear safety team protects public health and safety in the environment by preventing unnecessary exposure through radiation, through effective licensing, registration, inspection, enforcement, and emergency response. Basically, IEMA regularly promotes the collaboration with everybody together and our agencies, all of us working together, as we are the lead coordinating agency for any and all disasters in the state of Illinois. Lots to do.
As a public information officer, what do you handle?
So I handle a lot of the communications that come from our agency on out. So in crisis, in disaster, or maybe even in blue skies time like we are in right now, we're able to communicate out to the general public on what to do, or maybe what to avoid, or what hazards that are out there. On top of that, we also communicate with our local news media, who are incredibly important partners in this process to get good information out and to share what people should and shouldn't be doing.
Sounds like you do a lot of, well, in a way, prevention of disaster, or rather mitigation. Maybe not prevention, because disaster is going to happen whether or not you prepare for it or not. So I guess that's the word I'm looking for, preparedness. What are some of the things that IEMA does to make sure people are prepared?
Yeah, so our staff cover the entire state of Illinois. We have 8 different regions all across the state. So in your area, Central Illinois is really covered by Region 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So you folks are well covered in the area. But our field operations regularly embed with our locals to provide additional support, right? Their local emergency operations centers or out in the field, our folks are working side by side with them. They provide guidance through the state disaster response, maybe even doing some preliminary damage assessment. And of course, we can escalate critical needs from every community. Like, for example, if a community needs a specific resource or a specific personnel with a specific skill set, we're able to match that skill set, that kind of response, and help and support those agencies. And our ability to reach out across the state. So whether if you need something from north or south or central, anywhere, we can reach across the state. So that's kind of our job in supporting the locals, especially in crisis or disasters. Now, many places up in the Chicagoland area have a ton of staff out there, and they're ready to support. However, some of the areas that maybe are in the central Illinois and southern Illinois may not have the staff. So our folks from IEMA, or the Illinois Emergency Management Agency, will be there ready to support any of the needs that are identified by the local emergency managers and public safety.
What are some of, well, it's spring, so not going to be any more winter storms or anything like that. But so what are some of the things that you, and this time, that you're kind of focusing on and keeping an eye out for?
Avery, you don't need to jinx us on the whole winter storm, because you and I both know we've also had a few winter storms in March as well as April. So we just got over Flood Safety Awareness Week, so making sure that people are safe during flooding, because we are seeing a lot more flooding, and flooding is probably a huge challenge for any community. In fact, flooding is the most common disaster across the United States. So we tell people that if you see flooded roadways or flooded walkways, 6 inches of water could knock you off your feet. That's kind of a surprising factor, right? 6 inches of water can knock you off of your feet if you're walking around. And if you're driving in a car, 1 foot of water can wash your vehicle away. Doesn't matter what size of vehicle, 1 foot of water can wash your vehicle away. So we tell people to avoid flooded roadways. If bridges are there and there's a fast moving waterway underneath, consider going around in a different direction. You never want to get caught up in that whole bridge collapse or the bridge washing out. A phrase that we tell folks: turn around, don't drown. Make a good decision, turn around, don't drown, make good decisions, and know your area of some of the flooding that could happen in your area.
I think here in central Illinois, it's a lot of fields, right? And you get a lot of leak over from the melting and all that, and that can come over onto the roads a lot of the time. Shifting away just a teeny bit from that, I still on the topic of floods though. What are some things that people can do to make sure that they are prepared in case flooding does happen in their area?
Yeah. So first off, I think having a good knowledge of what's in the area is always important, right? Looking at topographical maps, those are the types of maps that show elevation and support. And sometimes people live in low-lying areas, which are likely more likely to be flooded during the springtime. So knowing the areas that will likely flood. Now, in your communities, as you drive under overpasses or train tracks, wherever it is, there's a little bit of a low-lying area. Oftentimes those low-lying areas have marks on the side of the areas. So as you're passing through the barriers, there's marks on the sides that identify where those areas could likely flood. So just being aware of where to go, or at least what areas are commonly flooded, might also help out every individual. On top of that, making sure people have an emergency preparedness kit. Always good to have one of those filled with food, water, medication, good snacks. All those types of things are incredibly important in case you get stuck, or in case you get turned around, or in case the roads become impassable and you have to wait till things get a little bit better. Your emergency preparedness kit would definitely be a help to support some of the folks out there.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the things that would be good to have in that emergency preparedness kit. What else do you recommend to have in that kit?
So we talk about non-perishable food. We always recommend having good non-perishable food. And when I say non-perishable food, an example is an MRE, or meals ready to eat. It's a shelf-stable kind of food that you can kind of pack away, or even canned goods would also be helpful. Water is always important because we always get thirsty, and being dehydrated, even though you're surrounded by floodwaters, being dehydrated could possibly happen. So we tell people about a gallon of water a day per person is about what we should approximate, and you should have it for at least 3 days in your emergency preparedness kit. Standard things like a first aid kit are always great to have. There's a ton of them. You don't need to buy a super fancy one. A basic first aid kit with band-aids, bandages, stuff like that would be important to have. Now, as we roll into spring, and since you've now jinxed us, we may have a bout of bad weather or cold weather. So a good blanket, a fleece blanket of some sort, maybe even a sleeping bag, may be good to have. And if your listeners are smart about this, they'd have a weather radio. Now, weather radios are pretty cool. They provide up-to-the-minute real-time information provided by the National Weather Service, which 5 National Weather Service offices cover the state of Illinois. By providing real-time information, and all this information is available to you free, people can make good decisions of what roadways are open, what areas to avoid, what inbound weather could be affecting some of their future plans, like for the weekend plans, for picking up the kids after school. All of these different things play into our everyday challenges. So I think those are some things to add in the preparedness kit. I think that's really helpful. I really love to harp on good snacks. So aside from having cash on hand, maybe having a knife and rope and all those different things, I tell people to have good snacks, because if you're going to be stuck somewhere and you're going to be in a location for quite a while, you don't want to be stuck with bad snacks. You and I both know that
Yes.
snacks, really good snacks, I mean, we're not talking the cheap stuff, we're talking good snacks, is critically important to keeping everybody happy in that situation. So I implore you to get good snacks, good stuff to have, and make sure that you have enough for everybody to share and not fight over.
I love it. What is your go-to good snack to have for that
Man,
situation?
I am a Cheeto kind of guy and a Funyun kind of guy, but
Okay.
that's just my personal preference. What are yours?
I would say more like along the cookie area, maybe some Oreos or something like that.
Ooh, those are also delicious as well. Good
Yeah,
choices for
good
sure.
choices. Now, I want to talk a lot more maybe about some other potential natural disasters that could happen, but first we got to take a quick break. Let me reintroduce you as Public Information Officer of the Illinois Emergency Management Agency, Kevin Schur, on the WTIM Morning Show. I'm your host, Avery Cooper, your stream co-sponsored by Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better with Landmark and People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first.
Let's check the markets now on the RFD Radio Network on this Wednesday morning. I'm Jim Taylor. Corn, beans, and wheat all trading higher. May corn 764.5 up 11.5. July corn up 10 3/4, 740.5. December corn up 8 1/4, 678.25. May beans 1726 up 29.5. July beans up 27 1/4, 1706. November beans 1516 1/4 up 18 1/4. May wheat 1125 1/4 up 7. July wheat up 6 3/4, 1107 3/4. May bean meal 485.20 up 8.40. May bean oil 75.88 up $1.34. In the livestock market, April live cattle 138.30 down $1.12. March feeders down $1.02, 155.30. April lean hogs 102.25 up $2. In the outside markets, May Brent crude oil 120.76 up 5.20. Look at the markets on this Wednesday morning. Jim Taylor with the RFD Radio Network.
Hi there, from Ramey, daughter of Randy Miller and managing director at Run Deep Coaching. Do you ever feel like you lack purpose in your life or sometimes feel lost or stuck? Through my personal life and business coaching, we'll create long-lasting, meaningful change to help you grow from the inside out so that you can get to where you want to be in life. One of my clients said that my workshop content was very clear and gave her so much peace, guidance, and purpose in her life. And another client said, after a chat with Ramey, I feel as though my thoughts and feelings have been clearly understood. I'd love to work with you. Feel free to reach out for a free 30-minute consultation to see if it's a good fit to work together one-on-one or to discuss my upcoming virtual group coaching program. My website is rundeepcoaching.com. That's rundeepcoaching.com. I really look forward to hearing from you soon. rundeepcoaching.com.
Hi, this is Jared White, host of Central Illinois Outdoors, inviting you to find us on the internet. We are up and running at centralillinoisoutdoors.com. You can jump on there to find our Catch of the Week segment. Also, our archive shows. After they air on the weekend, you can find them every Monday at centralillinoisoutdoors.com. So listen when you can. You can also find us on Facebook. Just search Central Illinois Outdoors. Central Illinois Outdoors on Facebook or at centralillinoisoutdoors.com. We'll see you there.
Spring has sprung, and it's time to put some spring in your step. Ensure your body is in its fittest form to do the things you love. The licensed therapist at Health Pro Heritage Outpatient Center at Taylorville Estates can help you overcome what's been ailing you. If you're experiencing issues with your gait or balance, your endurance, or are suffering pain when moving, maybe it's time to talk to your doctor about outpatient therapy at Health Pro Heritage at Taylorville Estates. Taylorville Estates, encouraging independence, enriching lives. Call them today to learn more.
Welcome back to the WTIM Morning Show. I'm your host, Avery Cooper. Your stream co-sponsored by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better with Landmark. I'm here on the phone with Public Information Officer of Illinois Emergency Management Agency, or IEMA, Kevin Sir, and talking about all the things that you can do to be prepared for a disaster or anything of that sort. So, Kevin, there's 3 different concurrent federally declared disasters happening right now in Illinois. Plus, you've been through COVID. Plus, you got to worry about things like tornadoes. So, how does the agency manage all of that? I mean, goodness.
Yeah,
It's a lot.
There's definitely been a lot, Avery. And for the past couple of years, we've not only responded to COVID, but to the largest commercial manufacturing fires in the U.S. We've had 6 state-level interagency emergency activation, including mobilization of 1,200 personnel. And for the first time in Illinois' history, we're managing the 3 federally concurrent disasters right now. So all of these things are happening all at the same time. However, we're seeing a higher impact, a higher response side from the tornadoes that are happening across the state of Illinois. As your listeners probably remember, we had a bunch of tornadoes on Father's Day in the DuPage County area, where it hit 230 homes, thousands of trees down, and 11 people were injured, right? That's in the DuPage County. It struck at midnight on Father's Day. incredibly damaging storms, scary stuff for everybody. And then, of course, the other set of tornadoes that rolled through a bunch of different states, including southern Illinois. So that knocked out a couple of different facilities, including an Amazon facility down there. So we're seeing a lot more higher impact of tornadoes across the state of Illinois. A couple of things. If you know, your weather radio would also provide you good information about a tornado watch. So that is the preparation for as things are coming up when the National Weather Service issues a tornado watch. That means things are kind of happening, things are aligning that we could have a tornado in the area. And then, of course, once the tornado warning is issued, so specific language, tornado warning, that's your sign to take cover, seek shelter immediately because a tornado has either been spotted or the conditions are perfectly right for a tornado. So knowing the idea, thanks to your weather radio, about the differences between tornado watches and tornado warnings. Of course, in a tornado, we want people to go indoors, make sure that they understand where to go, try to hold on to a bunch of different things. So drop cover, hold on, make sure they know what could fall, what could be loose. Don't go to the windows. Don't run to the windows and look outside. Don't run outside to your porch. Take out your cameras and take pictures of the tornado. Definitely seek shelter in this process. It is incredibly important that they seek shelter. And if they have the opportunity, there could be debris flying around, or if part of their house or the structure that they're in becomes compromised, i.e. windows are breaking, stuff starts to fall in, it's always good to jump under some pieces of furniture or a table, hold on to things, make sure that you're not injured. So these are all great tips, and more of it can be found on our website or following us on social media, where we tweet and post and Facebook and Meta, all those kinds of fun social media things, and talk about some of the challenges and some of the dangers and what to do during a tornado watch, tornado warning, and of course, all the good information of how to prepare for a tornado.
What's the best room to be in a tornado, assuming you are at home?
Yeah, so we tell people to be during a tornado warning, and where you should seek shelter is either in the basement or in an interior room with no windows. So a bathroom is a good example of that. If your bathroom is located on the interior of the structure, which has no windows, it provides you a little bit more formal structure, and the bathtub portion is probably a good place to be. Obviously, if you're in the basement, that's also another good place to be. Hunker down, make sure your family is all safe, make sure they're not outside trying to post the latest social media pictures of the tornado in their neighborhood. Make sure they're all safe. There'll be plenty of time for pictures afterwards. But we find that a lot of the injuries are people going outside, getting hit with debris, or even stepping on debris could also hamper their evacuation or their evac to safety. So we want to make sure that people are safe inside of the structure, interior, away from windows, and try to hunker down next to solid structures, like maybe a bathtub or in your basement.
Kevin, we got about a minute left. What else would you like everyone to know about what IEMA does, or maybe tornado safety, or any other type of natural disaster safety?
IEMA, we really cover a lot of the natural hazards as well as some of the man-made hazards and some of the nuclear or radiological type emergencies. We have a state emergency response center, which we call the State Emergency Operations Center, where we provide real-time information and situational reports for everybody. We have a 24-hour communications center. We have a watch desk. All of these it's basically the central hub to help communicate with our local agencies, coordinate requested resources, deploy our personnel out to the scene, and of course, track and maintaining good shared information for everybody. We're here always supporting our locals and making sure that they not only have the right information, they also have the right resources, the right people, and the right things to do the right job for everybody across the state of Illinois. Now, in blue sky time, when we're not having bad weather, we also coordinate drills, tabletop exercises, functional and full-scale exercises. Basically training for our all hazards partners. So hopefully we'll see you folks out there.
Hopefully we'll see you out there, Kevin. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thanks, Avery.
That's Public Information Officer of IEMA, Kevin Sir, on the WTIM Morning Show. I'm your host, Avery Cooper. Your stream co-sponsored by Landmark of Taylorville and People's Bank and Trust.
The Big 870 WTIM Assumption Taylorville, 96.1 W241 CF Taylorville, 107.5 W298 CD Shelbyville, 107.9 W300 EH Payne and Nokomis.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. This is day 28 of Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine, and President Biden once again voicing concern about Russia's potential use of chemical weapons against Ukraine.
As he left the White House for his trip to Europe, the president was asked about the Russian threat of chemical warfare.
I think it's a real threat.
On Monday, the president told